Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. If I can have everyone's attention. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so delighted to have so many of you here to be part of today's afternoon discussion, which is Voices from the Campus. My name is Sarah Freed. I serve as Hillel International's Chief External Affairs Officer. And I'm delighted to be able to welcome you to today's session. And I'm delighted that you prioritize today's session as an important one and part of the critical conversations that are happening here at the General Assembly. Before I introduce today's panelists and our head speaker, I just wanted to offer a quick, brief overview of the Hillel Passport Program, which is a new initiative and part of why so many of these incredible student leaders are here with us here at the GA. As part of our strategic plan, Hillel International is prioritizing investing in student leadership. We know that it's critical to be helping develop young people's ability to lead not only on campus but beyond, to join all of you as professionals and lay leaders in the future. Passport is a new program of Hillel International's designed to connect incredible student leaders with incredible partner experiences such as this General Assembly. We have over almost 85 students together in collaboration with the Montreal Federation who prioritize bringing a significant number of students as well. And we are delighted that they are able to be here. There are three main reasons that Passport feels critical for us. First is we want our students to be able to meet incredible professional and lay leaders like all of you. Second is we want them to create networks with each other so that when they come to a General Assembly 20 years from now, it feels like a reunion, just like it feels like for all of us. And third, and perhaps most important for this session, but perhaps most important for this conference, is we want student voices to be at all the tables where critical decisions are being made about the future of the Jewish community. So I am delighted now to be able to introduce Hillel International's President and CEO, Adam Lehman, who will offer some upfront framing before introducing our panelists.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I'll reiterate the welcome. It's so great to see so many of you here. We know that in our work on campus, teamwork makes a dream work. It takes so many to be successful in supporting Jewish life on campus, from the amazing students you're going to hear from, to our lay leaders, to our partners like our Federation partners who are absolutely critical to what we do, to our foundation partners, and of course, our Hillel professionals who hopefully you're getting a chance to know or already know. I'm going to just share a little bit of upfront framing about what is happening on campus, because right now, this panel is really focused on giving you all more of a bird's eye view into Jewish life on campus. Treat what I'm going to share right now more as almost like the canvas, the backdrop to the stories that three amazing student leaders are then going to paint. Number one, you've heard about the surge. If you're here at the GA, we are sustaining the surge. We not only had very substantial growth to nearly 200,000 Jewish students engaged through Hillel last academic year, we're sustaining that and actually seeing growth from that based on student engagement on campus this year so far. So that's critical. At the end of the day, we are about Jewish joy, community, and leadership. And so having the data that is demonstrating that we're succeeding is critical, I think, in terms of having not only a strong Jewish present right now on campus, but a strong Jewish future as well. Number two, and contrary sometimes to the narratives that we see in the media, all of our efforts, the efforts of Federation partners and others to really change the campus climate and deal with, frankly, university administrations that were failing at their jobs, those efforts are actually paying off. We have seen substantially quicker, stronger, more effective responses from our university partners, and that ranges from the worst, like Columbia, not trying to throw them under the bus per se. We have an incredible Hillel, but I think you all know what the range of issues have been there. We've seen strong response there to the best, to schools like Vanderbilt and WashU and others who are actually showing such leadership in defining what the high bar can be in creating welcoming and inclusive campus environments. Number 3, notwithstanding the way we are rewiring the university infrastructure to be more welcoming for Jewish life on campus, there is an unacceptable level of issues, anti-Semitic issues, demonization of Israel issues, still targeting Jewish students on campus. Our issue count thus far this year is 638 up to this day, which is tracking to about 80% of the 2,400 issues last year. And when I say issues, unfortunately, many of these come in the form of targeting individual students at their dorm room or classrooms where students are being silenced or marginalized, or students who are actively being harassed based on their Jewish identity or, God forbid, their Zionist identities. So we still have a lot of work to do. We are going to be relentless in fighting our way through it, but I think it's important to level set there. And finally, number 4, and this is what you see right here in this room, this is a pivot moment. It is a jujitsu moment of taking what has been so challenging over the last few years and taking that energy and turning it into an incredible positive force. And that is the force of student leaders. And in fact, as I was appropriately corrected by one of our panelists, they're not student leaders. They are leaders. They are Jewish leaders who are experts in campus and what's happening for students. So we are going to be doing everything we can in partnership with federations and others to lift up. And my promise to you is, in the next 3 years, we are going to catalyze the largest ever new cohort of Jewish leaders in Jewish history. That's what we're going to do. And let me tell you, once we do that, not only campus, but our broader society and world are going to be safer, stronger, better, prouder, more vibrant for Jews. So that is the goal. And with that, I want to introduce 3 really terrific leaders who are going to join me up here and we'll be in conversation. So Tessa Hewitson from the University of Michigan, Dearborn. Yeah, you can give an applause. As you'll hear more about, Tessa is not only an active leader on her campus, but also in our Israel Leadership Network. Maya Weisberg from Cornell University. Maya serves as the president of Cornell Hillel, and Aiden Hertzlinger from Baruch College. Come on up, Aiden. And Aiden serves as the president there. So I'm going to switch motifs here. Are we on? We are. Okay, so let's actually go down the line. We can start with Tessa. I think for the group's benefit, if you can share how you got involved in Jewish life on your campus and what that represents for you right now, that would be great.
So, hi, I'm Tessa Hewitson, like Adam said, from the University of Michigan, Dearborn. How I fell into Jewish life was really that. I fell into it. If you're unfamiliar with Dearborn, it has the highest concentration of Arabs outside of the Middle East. On my campus of roughly 8,000 students, I'm the only Jewish student they can find, that being Hillel/administration. So it puts me in a unique position. I say I'm not an advocate, I'm a good person with a big mouth. And so this is where we landed. And from there, the question is always, how has it been since October 7th? I have plenty of stories for that, but prior to October 7th, it became immediately clear that it was hostile. And that propelled me to rediscover Jewish Detroit and to connect with Hillel, and it has absolutely changed my life.
Amazing. And I should lift up from Tessa's response. When we think about Jewish life, we often think about places like Cornell, which is terrific, and you'll hear more about that. But the reality is there are Jewish students spread across higher education at this point, and if anything, they're showing up in more and more university contexts that are different from what we have typically supported through our Jewish community. So as we think about supporting Jewish students and student leaders, we need to think widely. Now, that said, Maya, if you can go ahead and tell us more.
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be speaking to you all today. My name is Maya Weisberg. I am a senior at Cornell University studying psychology, originally from New Jersey. I grew up in a very Jewish household with modern Orthodox values, attending Jewish day school my whole life, so I knew going into college that, Jewish life was definitely going to be a part of my campus experience. I didn't know exactly how that would take shape. But when an older student encouraged me to apply for Hillel eBoard in my freshman spring, I was unsure about it, but looking back now, it was literally the best decision I've made in all of college. Hillel has just shaped my entire Jewish experience on so many different levels, from learning how to advocate for Jewish students, learning how to explore Jewish identity and what the next chapter of my life as a Jewish adult is going to look like, and making my best friends. So I couldn't be more thankful for all that Hillel has offered me.
Great. And Aiden, why don't you bring us home? Tell us about your experience.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty similar experience to Maya. I attended yeshiva my whole life. I went to the yeshiva of Flatbush for high school and Jewish Foundation School of Staten Island for elementary and middle school. And going into college, I knew two things. One, that Baruch College is a commuter school. And two, that if I want to have a Jewish experience on campus, I need to seek it out. Because a lot of students on my school, they go to class and then they go home or they go to work. And they don't really have that opportunity to go to some Hillel house and speak with Hillel staff members. You need to seek that out. And so I knew I wanted to do that because I knew I wanted to have a Jewish experience on campus. And I didn't realize how important that would be following October 7th, which we'll get into more.
Yeah, and I want to amplify what Aiden just shared. As part of our Leadership Passport track in partnership with JFNA, the students participating had a breakfast this morning with Julie Platt and Mark Wilf, and it was unbelievable in terms of their sharing their journeys, but also their leadership guidance. And one of the things that Julie said is exactly what Aiden described. Don't wait for someone to invite you into leadership, step into it. And that's a huge part of what we do, the concept of Hinenu. Here I am, here we are, Hinenu, in terms of leading. So speaking of leadership, and maybe we'll reverse track here, but as I shared before, and frankly, everyone in this room knows, it has been an unprecedented period of challenge on campus over these last 2 years. Those of us who were in school 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, being a Jewish student, it was not what it is today. Can you share, but again, more at that personal story level, what it's been like for you? Have you encountered issues of anti-Semitism or other challenges, and what shape have they taken?
Yeah, so I'd say in my first year of college, it was fairly quiet. There were incidents here and there. A swastika was found made out of toilet paper in one of the men's bathrooms. But any type of incident that took place my first year, there was no type of action taken against it by the school's administration. And so I actually remember the exact date, August 28th, we had a meeting with the president of the school's administration, me and a number of students, and we told him, hey, these things took place last year, and you guys did nothing to stop it or to remedy it. And it's only going to escalate because these students see that they can continue to do more and escalate what they're doing because you didn't do anything to punish them, right? And so we were right. A few days later, we had an off-campus dinner at Mr. Broadway, which is a kosher restaurant in Midtown Manhattan. And it was a freshman dinner, so it was new kids trying to get acclimated to the college environment, and it was their first introduction to Hillel. And we were met at the entrance of the restaurant by agitators and protesters who were threatening students, told the executive director of our Hillel that he's not going home that night. And they were yelling at a couple passing by, where's Hirsch, you ugly ass, and I'm not going to say the next word because it was really bad, go bring them home. This was a few days after Hirsch Goldberg-Polin was murdered. Imagine that being the first interaction with Hillel with college as a freshman. It's scary and it's terrifying. And so we needed to create a space where these students can go, that they don't need to face that, but they also can flourish as Jewish students. And so we walked into that restaurant and we danced. Now, unfortunately, us going to the restaurant and dancing took a turn against us later on because we reported one of the students who was like the leader of the protest, and she was put on trial, and I quote that because it was a trial that was done by the school. It wasn't a legitimate legal trial. And there was a council that decided on what would happen with this student. It was made up of faculty and other students that are part of the school. And the student was essentially found not guilty for anything that happened that day. And furthermore, they blamed us, the Jewish students, for agitating and causing the students to escalate what they were doing because we were inside dancing. So it's that level of systematic anti-Semitism, but also the anti-Semitism at the surface that you see from other students participating. And then I can also speak about, there was graffiti found the day before October 7th, the anniversary, that said October 7th is forever. So the school doesn't want to do anything about it, and anything that happens, they're like, we're not responsible, hands off.
You know, and the challenge here is, as you all know, the CUNYs unfortunately have been some of the worst environments in terms of issues, and this issue in particular, both, but particularly the issue at Mr. Broadway, you know, have been some of the most graphic and problematic. I can tell you I was with several CUNY administrators last week at a Black and Jewish Unity event that we've hosted with some other partners. And we are pushing, they are getting there, but there's such a gap for certain environments between where they need to be for students not to have to face this BS that is, again, beyond unacceptable. Maya, what about your experience?
Yeah, oh, sorry. I'm sure many of you recall Cornell being in the national headlines. A few weeks after October 7th in 2023, there was a student who posted very vile death threats for Jewish students on a social media platform, saying he was going to come into the kosher dining hall and shoot everyone, saying that everybody should find the Jewish women walking on campus and rape them. And it was a very hard time to be a student on campus. It was very scary, and I remember very vividly being in the library, just like trying to do my work, trying to live my life, and seeing my phone like blowing up from all the Jewish group chats of campus students. Then my parents are calling me, they're anxious Jewish parents, oh my gosh, do we need to come pick you up? I had friends who lived in the Jewish living house who, you know, is adjoined to the kosher dining hall, who felt unsafe and were asking if they could come stay with me, but we weren't even sure if that was safer since I lived in a Jewish sorority house at the time. And it was a very hard experience. I really commend New York State for stepping in very quickly. We had the FBI there immediately. We had Kathy Hochul, the governor, step in, the university police, the town of Ithaca's police. So thankfully it was addressed very quickly and the threat put to rest, but it was definitely a very hard moment, and it was also very hard to be in the public eye so much. We had reporters reaching out to us, finding our names on Hillel's website, who, you know, wanted the inside scoop, the inside story, a headline, and that was very challenging. And I think those challenges just kind of persisted, unfortunately, even after the event. It was very hard. I would often talk to this about my parents, who, for them, they could turn their phone off. They could stop reading the news, stop watching the news. They could go for a walk and escape the realities of what was going on. But being on a college campus, and this is definitely true at Cornell as well, like, you could never turn it off. I couldn't walk to my classes and not hear a protest. I couldn't not see flyers or graffiti everywhere. I couldn't even like walk to Shabbat dinner, which is supposed to be something so happy, without, you know, encountering flags or whatever it might be. So I think that was something that was very challenging as a college student, to not be able to have that escape that people who weren't on a college campus had.
Yeah, that complete hothouse environment that, again, you know, I talk to colleagues who work in Jewish camping or in the Federation system or in synagogues or at JCCs, and it's just a fundamentally different dynamic. Now, diamonds are being made, as you're seeing, because within that pressure cooker, people learn to be resilient, they learn to lead. But, you know, let us not make any mistake in saying that it is a fundamentally different kind of experience. Tessa, what about for you?
So on my campus, I also come from a commuter campus, so it's a little bit different. and I'm selective with how I engage. There are no other Jews there generally, so nobody assumes that I'm a Jew. I have my symbols on. I don't hide them most of the time. And with that, I've run into still challenges. And while I have student experiences, both everything from people sending me caricatures of terrorists paragliding down on running families, or Jewish students, the extremely few that existed, anti-Zionist Jewish students would find me and corner me and have some pretty disgusting conversations. But the thing that I'm fixated on at my university is professors. And that can be ones who are upset with me for referring to Hamas as terrorists. Ones that tell me that Hezbollah is just like everyone else and in every academic institution they're around. Mind you, that day I heard both of those things. I was headed to my JCC to volunteer for the NOVA exhibit that we had in Detroit. So I was looking at the bullet holes as they were telling me whatever they were trying to get across. I had another professor just 2 weeks ago chanting alongside SJP, "There is only one solution, Intifada revolution. Mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters, we will honor all of our martyrs." My first time that I gave my university an opportunity to have a community forum on the Middle East crisis. This was November 7th of 2023. I said, I'm gonna go in and experience this I was a sophomore at the time, but still newish to Dearborn. And in front of all of the deans and put on by the office of the provost, people said disgusting things. Following that, I was prompted by one of the organizations in my community to write an article for the Detroit Jewish News. And the first line of that was, I came for education and got indoctrination. So there's hate and there's indoctrination, and that's where we land.
Yeah, it's something, again, and as I said, these are our campus experts, our student experience experts. When you are outside of higher education, you may not realize how it works on the inside. As I said before, we actually have a lot of administration partners who want to do the right thing. The reality of how higher education works, it is a diffuse governance structure. So we just hired a head of faculty misconduct and faculty affairs, because we've got to go inside the belly of the beast and deal with how you reform faculty's role in terms of self-governance and what happens when faculty engage in the kind of misconduct that Tessa shared. If we can do a quick, short answer, we'll go reverse line. In terms of your experience so far this academic year compared to the prior period, is the climate from your point of view better, the same, or worse?
I would say the same. Like I said, prior to October 7th, there was anti-Semitism. So while it's certainly ramped up, I don't see any difference now.
I would say at Cornell that I definitely feel like it's a much better environment. We had a change in university administration, which has helped immensely. And as I was a senior, like October 7th didn't happen until my sophomore year. And like my kind of go-to line these days is that this current year feels much more similar to my freshman year before October 7th happened than either my sophomore or junior year.
Great, yeah, and I've spoken a lot with your current president, who has, again, that's an example of someone who said, I want to actually be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. Aiden, what about you?
I'd say on the surface, it's better. It's gotten more quieter on campus, but on the underlying anti-Semitism, the one that you could feel, the uncomfortability of walking around on campus is still there.
Yeah, and I was talking to some students from American University, which again is, we do a lot of assessing where things are, and I have positive things to say about AU relative to many factors, but sometimes in our world, people will, I think from a wishful thinking point of view, say, oh, it's really 10%, haters who are really loud, 80% students who just don't care, and 10% who are with us. And the student said to me earlier, actually it can kind of feel like 10-10-80. It's like 80% an environment where you don't feel comfortable expressing yourself fully because there are a lot of people who have oppositional views. So we're going to shift though. I mean, again, we wanted to keep it real because you all want to know what is happening. At the same time, we're talking to 3 of, again, 75 amazing young leaders who are with us today. Tell us about your experience, and Aiden, we can start with you, in terms of leading, building, creating, what is something that you would point to that you've tried to spearhead on your campus or with, partners, including your Hillel partners, to actually lead the way and improve things?
I'll say for starters that leading on my campus has been one of the greatest joys of my life. It's such an honor to represent such a large Jewish community on my campus. And two of the things that come to mind when we talk about partnering with others on campus for me is a Faithful program that we have. It's an interfaith fellowship where we bring students from other backgrounds and Jewish students, and we sit together and we talk about different issues and conversations and share our opinions. And you're not always going to agree with someone, but coming to a mutual understanding is what's important, and having respect for each other is what's important. And the other thing is an amazing trip that we have that I'm going to be going on to Israel this January. It's called Israel Lead, where we take a group of non-Jewish students to Israel and we really give them the perspective that is on the ground and what's true.
Very cool. And again, harkening back to the jiu-jitsu, our chance in this moment, jiu-jitsu is in the Talmud, right? I'm trying to remember which tractate. Anyway, we have the ability to take the kind of leadership that Aidan was just describing and dramatically scale our efforts, not only at interfaith, but cross-community bridge building and allyship, and to get Jewish and non-Jewish students back to Israel. So those are both things we're certainly going to be focused on. Yeah, Maya.
Yeah, I would say that this year especially, we focused a lot on bringing back Jewish joy to our campus. There was definitely a sense of burnout among students after everything going on with October 7th and just having to show up for things constantly. And so we've really been trying to rebuild that Jewish joy and sense of community. One really big initiative that we've implemented with the most recent Hillel board is something called dessert bars, which is for after Shabbat dinner. We have a bunch of homemade desserts, and the students can stay around even after the dining staff has closed up and cleaned up, just hang out, enjoy dessert, really feel that sense of community that so many Jewish students are looking for, especially in a post-October 7th world. And I'll also just highlight that literally right before we came to this conference, we hosted our biggest event of the semester called Big Red B'nai Mitzvah, which is an opportunity for students who maybe didn't have a bar or bat mitzvah growing up to have that experience. We do a service and then they host a really big party, and I say it's so much fun because it's all the fun of a bar bat mitzvah, but you're not 13 and painfully awkward. So we just had that event on Saturday night right before we came to this conference. It was a huge success. Students just got really to enjoy being with each other and feeling that sense of community, and that's something that Cornell Hill is really focused on moving forward.
And at the Big Red B'nai Mitzvah, how many total students were there at one point or another?
Yeah, I would say we had between 200 and 300 students attend the party, and we had 4 amazing B'nai Mitzvah, which was awesome.
Very cool. Tessa.
So I know I can't fix the world. I know that I can't fix Dearborn, but I definitely can fuel Jewish joy. And it's become very clear to me that my path in Dearborn is a tricky one, but beyond that, I can re-engage into my community. So again, I talked about finding this Jewish Detroit, and I'm so fortunate through Hillel and through JCC and Federation that I have opportunities. I'm not a student that they're rescuing. I'm a leader that they are empowering, and I'm so fortunate in those spaces. And while prioritizing Jewish joy, both my own and others, is the mission, is the passion, that doesn't mean I give up my seat at the table in Dearborn. I'm still very much there having those conversations behind doors, some of which change minds and plant seeds, some of which don't, and I'm horribly disappointed. But I have another year there, and I'm not done yet.
Amazing. Sticking with the positive, and Mark will, if I referenced before what Julie shared, one of the things Mark shared is that, and we know this, we can't just be the anti-Semitism community. We have to focus on what we're trying to protect, preserve, and engender. So you've heard about the Jewish joy side of it. Just when you think about your own identities and what actually feeds them, nurtures them, and gives, lifts up your neshama, your Jewish soul, what is that for you? And Tessa, we'll start with you and come back down the line.
So first, it's Hillel, obviously. Everyone, when the best and worst things happen in their life, you call your mom. I call my Hillel and then my mom. So really from there, again, I engage in my greater Jewish Detroit. That's through JCC Maccabi, that's through Hillel and beyond. So those are the things touching people who are engaged, disengaged, and everywhere in between to live whatever kind of Jewish life they want. And that way when they get to college, they have some base to be connected. So that's what gets me excited.
Amazing. Maya?
Yeah, I would say that Hillel is just overall amazing, and I'm also very lucky to have great relationships with the staff members. I think for me, what makes it all worth it, and I love being a Hillel leadership, like I mentioned before, it's best decision, but I think that a lot of times just seeing the other students really get to enjoy their Judaism, and I was so blessed to grow up in a really strong Jewish background, but for so many college students, it's really their first time experiencing that sense of Jewish community. So getting to witness that, and I also think my friends who you're getting to hear from leaders, but there are so many Jewish students on campus who are doing things behind the scenes that you don't get to know. And even when I just come home and complain to my roommates about a hard day and they really uplift me and support me and validate what's happening, that's really amazing. So you're hearing from student leaders, but there are so many other students also doing really amazing stuff.
Awesome. Hayden.
I'll share two things. One, when freshmen or anyone that hasn't been into the Hillel walks in, they're a little bit nervous, confused. They're like, what is this? This place is kind of weird. And that was me at one point. I walked into Hillel. I was like, what is this place? Why is it here? Right? And over time, I became acclimated to this space, and I became part of not even the community, the family that Hillel is. And you see over time that same thing that happened to you happening to these students that start coming here, right? And to see that gets me so excited because it's like, that's awesome. Now you have a family too, in me and in everyone else here. And number two, we have a huge phrase at our Hillel. It's very simple. It's be more Jewish. But it has a lot of depth to that phrase because that can mean so many different things for so many different people. But I think every single person can agree that one thing about that phrase that does mean the same thing to all of us is that it's about expressing your Jewish identity in all spaces and being loud and proud of who you are.
All right. We'll really switch things up, and Maya, you can lead off on what will be our last question. We have a room full of community leaders, and they're here because they want to hear your voices, your guidance. So if each of you can share one thing that you want to ask of our community leaders who are partners in the mission, the goal, the work when it comes to Jewish community building and revitalization, what is that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, and you all are already doing this, but really listening to student voices is the most important. I think sometimes people with really great intentions can take actions that aren't actually what Jewish college students need and what they want and what would help support them. And I think it's really, really important to listen to students on campuses because they do know best. They know what they need and the support they have. And I think, you know, it's been very hard at times to see my university or my community drag through the media in a way that we didn't want and that a way that didn't really represent how we feel. And so I think that it's just really, really important to keep Jewish students on campuses in the conversation and to really remind you also that like a lot of people sometimes are like, well, we should just forget these institutions that have a lot of anti-Semitism. Like, why are we sending our children there? But removing ourselves from academia and from higher education only is going to hurt us in the long term, and not sending our students to these universities is not the solution to the problem. So I think still encouraging Jewish students to continue to pursue higher education and academia, and to just really talk to them to figure out how you can support them in their journey.
Yeah, and I have to add, because it's so core to what we're trying to do more broadly, we want great, strong, welcoming Jewish life at every university, right? We don't want to seed a single institution. Now, we're going to keep building to great new schools for Jewish life that are actually popping up across the Southeast and Southwest, but we don't want to give up other great institutions. That's not a winning strategy. And Maya beautifully articulated in terms of, you know, why that's the case, and we have to stay committed. Aiden, what about you?
Yeah, this idea of having a seat at the table to me is so amazing. Having you all here listening to us is super, super important. But I think we could take that one step further and have a seat at the table where where decisions are being made, because every single student here has made those decisions on their campuses. And yes, it may have been on a micro level, but we all have the experience and knowledge to make it at a more macro level for the broader Jewish communities. And every single student here has done something amazing on their campus. And I wouldn't say we're Jewish student leaders, I'd say we're Jewish leaders. And we have the ability to do so much more, and we're going to do so much more.
All right, Tessa, bring us home.
So Aiden and I both kind of came to that conclusion and to articulate that way, so I don't want to steal his answer, but truly not even this idea of a seat at the table. A seat at the table feels like a privilege. Just know that the future is now. We are those people. Do not rescue the students, just have them be in your circles and see what comes from it. The other piece that I was inspired by Aiden last night was, again, this idea of not giving up your seat at the table. Even if you have a broken chair, right? Do not avoid those universities because they have whatever background of whatever for that reason. You need to keep your seat at the table, because the solution to these problems that we have is not to take Jews out of the equation.
And I'll just add one more thing to that. Last night, me and Tessa were having a conversation with a wonderful mother from Palm Beach Federation. And she was saying, she's looking at schools for her daughter to go to who's going to graduate high school soon. And they're ticking off schools based on the level of anti-Semitism. And we both said, no, don't do that. Send her to that school. Don't let anti-Semitism be the reason you choose not to send your child to that school. They should be there. They should be the voice on campus.
Amazing. So can we give a big round of applause for these three? Yeah. All right, wonderful. All right, these folks are going to exit, but well-deserved, and Sarah's going to share some instructions around what we're going to do at the tables now.
First off, I hope you feel as inspired as I do. Tessa, Maya, and Aiden, thank you for sharing your stories and your wisdom. These students are just three of many students who are here with us in the room today. So in lieu of a traditional question and answer, we wanted you to have a conversation with the students who are sitting with you at your tables right now. If there isn't a student at your table, to borrow a jiu-jitsu word that my boss, Adam Lehman, likes to use now, please move yourself around so that you are at a table with one or two student leaders who are with you. There are table questions that can help guide your conversation, but please feel free to also use this as a chance to openly engage about your questions around what's happening on campus today. Thank you for joining us.